This structure is extra storage located in the garage and, most importantly, serves as the retaining wall for all of that dirt on the adjoining property. So, how did we build it, and what do you need to know about a retaining wall that's pulling double duty?
All right, as you can see, we're just about done building this retaining wall. And I know what you're thinking. This is a mighty strange looking retaining wall, right? In the original plans, we were only supposed to have a retaining wall. Obviously, in order to make sure that this neighboring property doesn't slide down into this property. And that's really a great idea and necessary when you're that close to a neighboring property. However, remember, the whole bottom here is parking or garage. And the owner thought, well, if I'm going to put up a retaining wall, this would be a great place to put in some extra storage and maybe an extra bathroom on the end. Now, that's a great idea because you can never have enough storage in your house. So he decided, let's add a little bit of storage. Now, while we're talking about changing a few things or adding storage, keep in mind that when your contractor quotes you a price, anytime you make even a minor adjustment, minor or major, is going to change the expenses on that final bill. So keep in mind that yes, if you think of something, you can make a change, and sometimes it's important to do that. However, expect that it's going to change the overall cost, and it's also going to change the overall time. Having this extra storage added another 2 to 3 weeks because we had to manually mix the cement, put all these blocks up. So it took extra time, which added another 2 to 3 weeks to our actual job. Now, before we talk about the actual storage, let's talk about the retaining wall. Remember, the most important thing about a retaining wall is what? It needs to drain. If it doesn't drain, you've created a dam, and we don't want that problem. So a normal retaining wall would drain through the front or through that wall. But since this is added storage, we don't want this to actually drain through the wall, so we'll have to drain around the wall. How do we do that? Every retaining wall should have 6 to 12 inches of rock before it actually gets to the actual earth or soil. So as you begin filling up rock and packing the dirt around it, you want to have 6 to 12 inches of rock. You want to have some drain pipe in the bottom, have some drain pipe in the center, maybe some drain pipe at the top, so that when it rains, all that water will seep through the earth, up against your rock. It will seep down through the rock into your drain pipes and away from your building. This way you have adequate drainage. Now, one thing we do need to keep in mind, which is different from normal retaining walls. Since this is a retaining wall and storage, we don't want any of that water to seep through this concrete, and concrete is naturally porous. So what we have to do is make sure that this wall is sealed. So we need to do whatever we need to do, whether it's tar, whether you take and put plaster with sealant on it, you need to make sure that wall is sealed so that no water goes through this concrete block. Why is that important? Well, if that water goes through this concrete block, you will forever have a problem with mold. And so if you have mold issues, you'll have problems for the rest of your life, and so you want to make sure it's sealed so you never have mold problems. So here we go. Make sure, as we recap, you make sure that you have proper drainage by having drain pipes, 6 to 12 inches of rock, and that way you won't have problems. Now let's talk about the rest of this. Our blocks go all the way to the top. As you can see, we've got rebar at the top. It's very strong. All of the blocks are filled with cement, which makes it strong. But we don't want the whole weight of our house sitting on just block. And that's what's happening right here. You see, this is where when we pour cement, these are going to be some solid cement columns that will support the actual weight of this side of this house. So we have some columns on this end of the building, columns on that end of the building, and there's a couple of columns along the back side here in the middle of the building. So this way, the actual columns are what supports the weight of this side of the house. So this extra storage area, while it is nice, you do have to take in consideration, well, now that we've altered the plans, there are different things and added costs that we need to do in order to make sure it's done right. Now, I know all of that sounds pretty complex, but if you schedule your 20-minute free phone consultation, a professional will talk to you, making sure that you don't have any errors and you don't make those costly mistakes, because it is okay to make adjustments to your plan. Just understand it does add extra costs.
Now, let's look at how our guys built this retaining wall and storage area. But first, don't forget, if you leave a comment, you could win that 3-day Costa Rica vacation. I am giving away a 3-day Costa Rican adventure just for watching videos on my channel and learning all about living in Costa Rica. Subscribe now, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out, and watch to the end and I'll explain how you can qualify to win. We started building this retaining wall by unloading a truckload of cement. This cement would be used to make our mortar or our mud for laying the blocks and to fill the core of our blocks. Filling the core of our blocks will make our retaining wall super strong. Of course, we need a lot of rebar as well. The combination of blocks with lots of rebar tied together and filling the cores of our blocks make for a very solid and extremely strong wall, and that's what we need to hold up the house, which will be built on top of this retaining wall. Now, I know you're wondering, why did they unload that rebar onto the ground and then pick up the rebar and put it in the wooden rack? Well, I'm wondering that too, but in reality, the rebar was falling off of the truck, and so they figured it was easier just to let it fall off the truck and then sort it and put it on the rack. Then the crew started tying in vertical rebar everywhere that a block wall would be built. And this rebar is tied to the huge rebar support system at the bottom, which will become the foundation of this retaining wall. Now that the vertical rebar is in place, it's time to pour the cement for this entire foundation. Of course, we'll need a cement pump truck to fill these holes because the driveway up to our building site is just far too steep. Filling the bottom of the foundation goes fairly quickly. After the foundation base is full, it's important to push that cement around and get it as level as possible and getting that cement in every area. The best way to make sure that cement is in every nook and cranny is to use that cement vibrator. This will vibrate the cement into every area, get all of the excess air out of that cement, making sure that cement goes underneath the wire, around the wire, everywhere it needs to be to have a solid foundation. While we're giving that cement a few days to dry, the crew is preparing the cement blocks. Some of those blocks have been cut in half to use where they're needed. Other blocks have the upper middle section cut out in order to lay rebar on those blocks in a horizontal position, and then they have whole blocks stacked nearby so that they can begin working and stacking those blocks. They've also taken the time to build some wooden scaffolding. And now they have to pump out all of that excess rainwater so they can prepare to start dropping or laying those blocks. Laying blocks for such a tall wall is very time consuming. As you can see, one guy has to place the rebar through the block and then slide it down over that rebar, handing it to the guy who's laying the blocks. It's important to make sure your wall stays level and plumb as you put up each row of block. One guy is constantly mixing the mud or the mortar for the guys who are laying the blocks. Every few rows of vertical rebar is laid down and it's tied to the horizontal rebar. Doing this will make for a super strong retaining wall and support wall for the house that will be built on top. The biggest challenge for the guy who's mixing the mud is to make sure that not only is it the right consistency, but to make sure that it doesn't dry out or get too hard in this heat. He has to constantly make sure to keep his mortar mixed and add water when necessary, or add a little bit more cement or mortar mix. All right, we're getting close to finishing this wall, but don't forget, you need to learn how to qualify to win that 3-day Costa Rican vacation. It's easy to qualify to win this 3-day Costa Rican adventure by doing these 4 simple tasks. First, subscribe and hit that notification bell. This way, you will not miss out on future videos and more opportunities to win. Second, click the like button. Literally, it takes 2 seconds, so do it right now. Third, comment. Let me know if you've learned something and what else you'd like to learn. And fourth, share this video. You never know whose life you will change because you took a few seconds to share this video on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. Heck, share it on all your social media profiles. All right, I can't wait to find out who's gonna win that vacation after we get finished building this house. So let's go ahead and finish up this project. Notice the corners with the wooden forms and the empty spaces on the back side of this wall. Remember, those areas will become solid cement supports which are going to hold up the weight of the entire house on top of this extra storage. The wall is almost done, and as you can see, it is as tall as that dirt behind the retaining wall. The retaining wall and extra storage is almost done, and it's taken about a week and a half. Now it's time to start the next phase, which is waterproofing the retaining wall so that no water goes through there, applying that plaster to the outside of our wall and some waterproof paint. Make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the next episode and find out, can we build this house in Costa Rica in 90 days or less?